Astronomers charted the sun's life, and this is how the story ends. One day, our sun will die. Since we happen to be residents of the sun's planetary system, the question of when and how this will happen is of intense interest to us. Sure, we're unlikely to be around to see it, but, it's our home. We want to know what will eventually become of it. Mere curiosity aside, models of related to stars change for the better over time can help us understand outer space and our own place in it. If we don't understand our own sun, and there are many things we don't know about it, how can we expect to understand all of the other stars that make up our wonderful, large star system, large group of things, said star expert Orla Creevy of the building where you look at the stars, etc., de la Côte d'Azur in France. We already know in some detail what will happen in our sun's future. It will continue to grow hotter over the next few billion years, eventually running out of hydrogen to join together in its core. The core will start to contract, a process that brings more hydrogen into the area immediately around the core, forming a hydrogen shell. This hydrogen then starts to join together, dumping helium into the core, in a process called shell burning. During this, the outer atmosphere of the Sun will expand by a lot, maybe even as far as the orbit of Mars, turning it into a red giant. Eventually, it will run out of hydrogen and helium, eject all its outer material to form a planetary nebula, and the core will collapse down into a white something much smaller than the usual, which could take trillions of years to cool completely. But the timing of the end of the main sequence depends on the individual features, qualities, traits of each star. As far as our own sun goes, the approximate number of when things will go south could always use more events or objects that prove something. The best way to find that is by searching the Milky Way for sun-like stars at different stages of their lives, and then weaving them into a timeline that models our own star's past and future. With the latest release of data from the Related to Europe Space Agency's Gaia Milky Way mapping project, we now have the most described explained timeline of the Sun's life yet. Gaia's first, or most important, mission is to map the Milky Way with the highest, high, quality yet, and it's prepared with a suite of sensitive measuring, recording devices for that job. It tracks the positions and waves signals of stars in the sky, while taking described explained instances of watching, noticing, or making statements of each star's brightness and, related to ghosts or the colors of the rainbow, classification. These values can be used to figure out factors like percentages of different chemicals within a substance and temperature. They can also be plotted on a graph known as a Hertzsprung-Russell diagram, which gives a guess of a number of the star's age. A star's mass, you see, doesn't really change as it ages, but its temperature does, quite significantly, based on the nuclear fusion happening in the related to star's core, which is followed as changes in brightness. Our Sun is classified as a G-type main sequence star, or yellow, something much smaller than the usual, even though it's not actually yellow, and is a fairly typical example of its kind. It's about 4.57 billion years old, or about halfway through its main sequence, length of time something is alive. It's also capable of core, related to releasing the huge amount of heat locked inside atoms, fusion, creating a surface temperature of 5,772 Kelvin. This means that looking at other G-type stars should give us a pretty good idea of how our Sun might continue to burn fuel, and when it might eventually fizzle out. Creevy and her team at first started combing the Gaia data because they wanted high-quality instances of watching, noticing, or making statements of stars with, compared to other things, cooler temperatures between 3,000 and 10,000 Kelvin. That's because low-temperature stars tend to be smaller and live longer than the hotter ones. Looking at cooler stars, therefore, can possibly tell more about the history and, related to stars, change for the better, over time, of the Milky Way and the wider universe. Because this temperature range includes stars like the Sun, the data could be used to focus on stars with an almost the same mass and percentages of different chemicals within a substance as the Sun. This resulted in 5,863 sun-like stars across the whole Hertzsprung-Russell diagram, from very young to very old. By identifying only the most sun-like stars, Creevy and her fellow workers were able to confirm the timing of its death. Broadly agreeing with matching up with working regularly with previous projections of the sun's length of time something is alive, its temperature will peak at around 8 billion years of age. It will change into a red giant star at around 10 billion to 11 billion years of age. Life on Earth, for the record, only has about 1 billion years left, unless we do something extremely terribly stupid, or something extremely terrible happens to us. That's because the sun is increasing in brightness by about 10% every billion years, which means it is also increasing in temperature. That change sounds small, but it will make Earth unfit to live into life as we know it. So that's cheery. But there's still work to do. The new Gaia, big list of items, of sun-like stars could tell us more about how and why we are even here to start with. We can learn if sun-like stars all behave the same way, for instance. And, more importantly, look for more planetary systems that look like the solar system. At the moment, we've not found any system that seems capable of holding, hiding, giving shelter to smart life as we know it. But the answers are out there. If we can find them.